Now our game of the week breakdown. We're going to go number 6 Penn State at number 3 Ohio State. I actually was making these notes before all the games were done, and I did not double check the rankings, but nobody above Penn State lost, so I assume that still holds true. Dibes, lead us off here. Penn State, Ohio State, what are you watching for this weekend?
Can James Franklin win the big one? That's kind of where we're at here is, Franklin's 1-8 against Ohio State. Penn State has lost 10 of the last 11 matchups with the Buckeyes. The difference here, I think Ohio State's slightly trending down. I think Penn State's slightly trending up a little bit. That's kind of my take. There's some injury concerns on both sides. Travion Henderson didn't play last week, still recovering from injury. Emeka Egbuka left the game last week with a leg injury. That is something to watch. Didn't really matter because Marvin Harrison Jr. is a freak and he just dominates. But we get to Drew Aller, who is arguably the most talented Penn State quarterback in a long, long time. A lot of his damage is in those short to intermediate routes, behind the line of scrimmage type of passes. But what I've been so impressed with Drew Aller is how he has handled pressure and against the blitz. When under pressure of blitz, Drew Aller has 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, a QB rating of well over 100. And he's young, man. This kid is still learning. Ohio State's going to test this kid. And I have a ton of guys for Ohio State that can really deliver pressure. JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Michael Hall Jr., Tommy Eichenberg, all 4 of those guys lead Ohio State in pressures. These, when you get to defense, these are 2 defenses that are literally tied for 6th best in the country per PFF. You look at Penn State, they've kind of got the better pass rush. Ohio State kind of has the better run defense. Both are very good, but I think Penn State is just a little bit better than Ohio State when it comes to defense. The Lions lead the nation in total and passing defense, total yards and passing defense. They allow the fewest first downs. They rank 2nd in scoring and sacks and allow the fewest plays of 10 yards or more in college football. So I think this game will boil down to which quarterback, Kyle McCord, Drew Aller, truly stands up. Which quarterback makes the least amount of mistakes. And I think that points in the Nittany Lions' favor. That's my take on that. But I think 2 other guys to really watch out for between Penn State and Ohio State. One is Adisa Isaac. We've talked on this show a lot about Chop Robinson, who's a terrific player, but Adisa Isaac is quietly having a phenomenal year, a senior. 6 sacks on the season, leads the team with 19 pressures. The other guy is Daquan Hardy for Penn State, a really good special teams guy, can return punts for touchdowns. When both of these teams are so even on offense and defense, maybe the difference is a huge return for a touchdown or giving Penn State good field position. So Daquan Hardy and Adisa Isaac, keep a watch for those 2 names.
Daquan Hardy, Jeff and Matt's the 3rd Hardy brother. That's for my WWE fans out there.
Mark routinely makes these WWE references, and I'm like, I don't know. Is that a football? Is that a baseball player? I don't know. All right, so Mark, looks like Ohio State's favored by 4.5. That's the number I saw. Is that kind of what you've seen? And which way do you lean on a game like this?
Yeah. So it's funny with the biggest games of the year, Vegas actually sets lines before the season. And they leave them up throughout a lot of the season. Like Oklahoma, Texas always has a line in the preseason, Bama, LSU, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, the big games that look like are going to be determining the championship picture in the college football, slate. And before the season, and as late as like a couple days ago, you could have bet this at Penn State plus 10.5. So wow. That gives you an idea of what Vegas thinks of what they've seen from Ohio State and what they've seen from Penn State. I've said it on my radio show. If I had to make a pick right now on a team to win the national championship that wasn't the Georgia Bulldogs, it would be the Penn State Nittany Lions, because they have the chance to lose one of these games to Michigan and Ohio State. And if they win the other, they have a good chance to be in the playoff. And with the defense that they have, with how talented Drew Aller is, with how talented Nick Singleton and Katron Allen are, it just feels like they have everything you could want in a major national title contender, besides the coach who has proven he can win in big games. And that's what James Franklin, my fellow Neshaminy High School alum, has to prove this weekend against Ohio State. It's the biggest game of his coaching career. This is the best Penn State team he's ever had. This is better than the Saquon teams, in my opinion, because Aller's that much better than Trace McSorley was. So I think Penn State has every chance to win this game. I think it's darn near 50-50. Like, I think this game will probably be decided by a field goal. I lean the under. It's too low to bet. It opened at 54.5 in the offseason. It's down to like 47 or something like that. I do think it's like a 20-17 type of game. I think it'll be played in the trenches. I think Penn State wins. I lean the way of Penn State. And I know, you said Egbuka got hurt. Is there any word on if he's going to play in this game? He hasn't been quite the difference maker he is this year that he was last year. Maybe that's a CJ Stroud issue, but it would be a massive, massive blow to Ohio State if he's either limited or not playing.
I'm looking it up now.
Yeah,
and
I was just looking up. I don't see anything yet.
Yeah, it's still really early in the week, so you might not get anything until Thursday or Friday, to be quite honest. And honestly, you have Marvin Harrison Jr., you have Cade Stover, who Dives pointed out, you have Travion Henderson in the backfield, Mayan Williams. They have no shortage of blue chip offensive talent, but I do think Egbuka is a guy who relieves a lot of the pressure off of Marvin Harrison Jr. Whereas if he's going and you have to account for him, that's when Harrison really gets loose. And obviously, I think it's safe in me saying he's the best receiver prospect any of us have ever graded.
No question.
Yeah.
I think it's almost like a blessing in disguise. More targets towards Marvin Harrison Jr. is only going to be a good thing or a bad thing for Penn State.
That's a fair argument. I hadn't thought of it that way. That's a really good way to put that, honestly.
I mean, he's unstoppable. When he gets going, he's, like you said, he's the best wide receiver probably since Calvin Johnson.
Yeah. No, he is a special talent. But you know who might not be? Kyle McCord. That's what this game comes down to more than anything, to be quite honest. Is Kyle McCord for real? Yeah. Is he the guy we saw in the last drive against Notre Dame? Or is he the guy we saw for the first 58 minutes of that game against Notre Dame? That's really what we have to figure out with Kyle McCord. And nobody's in a better situation to succeed than Kyle McCord. If Kyle McCord can't figure it out, it's on Kyle McCord. I've said his name way too many times now. But I think that this game will come down. It rests on his shoulders, even more than Aller, because I think you have an idea of what you're going to get from Aller. Like, I think there's the downside of Aller is still a pretty good game. I think he's that talented. I think Penn State has the advantage here in terms of the quarterback. Michigan has the advantage in terms of the head coach. Ohio State has the advantage on the perimeter, and Penn State has the advantage on defense. It's going to be a fun one. This is the best game of the year. Which last week, Washington, Oregon, I think at that point was the most important game of the year. This is even more important.
Kyle McCord only has one interception this year, and that was during the season opener.
He's playing. He definitely is playing super conservatively. There is a super conservative aspect to this Ohio State offense, not just with how McCord plays, but they've been running the ball a lot. Like they are not throwing the ball the way they did with CJ Stroud, the way they did with Justin Fields, the way they did with Dwayne Haskins. They are not throwing the ball at those levels. And I think they're going to have to. When you have Marvin Harrison Jr. and Mika Egbuka and Henderson with what he can do in the passing game, I think they're going to have to start using Kyle McCord the way they used their past Ohio State quarterbacks. And we'll see if he can handle that. I don't know if he can.